Hey, what's up, podcast? It's Jeff. Just want to jump in here. This is a special bonus episode of Teach Better Talk. This is actually going to be the audio recording from a Facebook Live that our team is doing every single day, Monday through Friday, at 8 a.m. Eastern Time in our Facebook private group. You can get in that group at teachbettergroup.com or go on to Facebook and just search Teach Better Team. You'll see our page and then you'll see the group. Get in there. So here we go, a special bonus episode of Teach Better Talk pulled from one of our Facebook Live videos in our private group at teachbettergroup.com. Hope you enjoy.
Good morning, everyone. It's Ray from the Teach Better team for our daily morning drop-in, and I have the most amazing guest with me, Mr. Dave Schmittou. I can't believe that we're live together. So fun.
I know. It's pretty exciting. I had this circled in red and bold on my calendar all week. Truly the highlight of the week so far. So let's do this.
Dave, I was so excited because I was seeing you were one of the first educators, I feel like, that kept popping up on my newsfeed trying to add value for educators around the country. And I called you in the car on my way driving home from Chicago on Sunday. And I'm like, Dave, I just want to interact more. Like, let's go live together. Let's talk shop. You are always sharing so many incredible things. I'm so excited to bring you into our group and be a part of our daily drop-in. So if our group doesn't necessarily know everything about you, I feel like I could give you a great introduction, but would you just tell us, what do you do in education? What's your role? This will give all of our listeners time to comment saying good morning and slowly get into the newsfeed too.
So I kind of feel like I need to put you on the spot and say, no, go ahead, Ray. Introduce me with that great intro.
I could.
No. So on the personal side, father of 4 amazing kids. My oldest is in 8th grade, 14 years old, still sound asleep. He'll probably be sleeping for another couple of hours. I've got a 9-year-old. I've got a 6-year-old. I've got a 4-year-old. The 3 youngest have been up for about 2.5, 3 hours now. And so that means I've been up for 2.5, 3 hours now. On the professional side, I've got the title of Executive Director of Curriculum and Instruction, which means I'm supposed to know something about teaching and learning, but all I do is I go out there and steal great ideas from other people and try to amplify them and tell everybody else great things people are doing so they can steal it and run with it and make it even better. Got a couple of side hustles. I'm a professor online. I get to talk to amazing people like you often, and I love learning and connecting with new people. So I'm pumped to be here this morning.
No, you are doing great things. I would have gotten your title wrong, but I knew the 4 kids. I knew all that stuff. So
is that because I always had those dark circles under my eyes and I always look so tired? You're like, yep, dad of multiple kids.
So wait, I have to say, I know that was a good overview of all that you're involved in, but can you talk a little more on the podcast? I won't lie to you. I love the work that you do in that space specifically. So
thanks.
Please just give us a little more there. As I see a lot of people saying good morning. It's so fun to see that Randy's here, Amanda, Joe. So awesome. I love that our morning's kicking off with all of our friends. So
That's awesome. Good morning, everybody. So I got a little podcast that I like to share with people, and
a little podcast.
It's a little podcast. And I told you this when I had you on the show, that really the reason the podcast has evolved to where it is now is because it's a great opportunity for me to have conversations with people like you. Because there's a lot of people in the world that would be creeped out if I just picked up the phone and called them and said, hey, can we just talk a little bit? But if I can say, hey, I'm going to put you on a podcast and we can talk and interact and I can put you on camera, they're like, yeah, sure, let's have that conversation. So I use the podcast to just have conversations about people and their lives and their obstacles that they've turned into opportunities. And I love to just hear the stories of overcoming. It's a podcast that has evolved quite a bit as my own personal story has kind of evolved. And I'm just so grateful that other people have gone along for the ride.
I have to tell you, Dave, my mother, I told you before we got on this live video, I told you my mother was texting me. That's because she knew I was going live with you. Because my mother is the coolest Dave Schmittou fan, because she heard the interview we did together, which was one of my favorite interviews. And she went on and on. She was like, that was the best interview you've ever done. You guys were naturals talking together. She's like, I subscribe to the podcast. She's not even an education. And So I told her this when I talked to her earlier this week, I'm like, Mom, Dave Schmittou and I are going live together. And she's like, oh, I love Dave Schmittou. I'm going to catch the live of it. It's just so funny. Everyone's a Dave Schmittou fan.
Well, hi, Mom. I'm a huge Ray Mom fan too, so that's good.
You would love her. She's quite a personality. It's awesome.
That's awesome.
So I'm sure all of, all these people that are saying good morning this morning, obviously good morning from us, but also go subscribe to all that Dave's doing, because he's not only sharing out amazing resources during, the tough time that we're all going through, but also you're just putting out good content. You're very passionate about helping people. And I really value that about you. And that's why I love that we're friends. I called you this week and I was like, we can call each other, right? We're friends now, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're besties for sure.
So fun. Well, I know that I'm sure that a lot of people in this group have popped into our daily drop-in before, but if you're new here, I just want to kind of give you a quick overview of all that the team's doing, because, Dave and I are live essentially to answer questions and talk. I was actually texting with a good friend last night who will be live with us tomorrow for our daily drop-in, and he was asking, he's like, are there talking points? I'm like, no, we're just here. We just want to answer questions. We want to, try and give you as many resources as possible, no matter where you are in this process of supporting students, especially at a distance learning, e-learning, virtual learning, whatever vocab word you're using, especially in that setting. So please feel free to use this as a conversation for us to brainstorm and help you in any way. If you're not really connected to the Teach Better team, welcome. You're now part of the family. There's a lot of blogs, online courses, podcasts. There's a lot that we're able to do to support all of you. But the daily drop-in is hopefully for us to be as accessible as possible every single morning at 7 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Eastern in this group. And then we actually take this recording and we add it as an additional bonus episode in our podcast. We put it up on YouTube. You'll be seeing it everywhere. So our goal is to just keep the conversation going between great educators. So I'm seeing a lot of people. Adam just posted he's on day 1 of remote learning. He's saying he's having some bumps in the road, but making it manageable. Dave, what is your school district exploring in terms of remote learning? Is that a conversation right now? Is it not? What's kind of the message you're sharing with your group?
Yeah, so it's definitely a conversation. I'm in Michigan, and we went through what virtually every other state has gone through. So Thursday, everybody was just teaching and learning. And then Thursday night, the governor came out and said, no school tomorrow, and we'll see when we go back, which left a lot of questions for a lot of people. And in my position, I had to constantly balance what are the mandates, what are the requirements, and what are we allowed to do. We had a lot of people jumping at the opportunity saying, okay, so we're just going to go straight to distance virtual e-learning, which sounded like a great idea. But then on the other side, you also have some labor issues that come into play with that. Michigan is a strong union state. And with that, in Michigan, we're also used to the idea of snow days. And with snow days, oftentimes you have to make up those days at the end of the year. So we had some issues where if we were requiring people to do distance learning or e-learning now, and they were going to be required to make up time in the summer, where people are going to be doing double the work for not a lot of extra pay or no extra pay. So right now we're in a holding pattern where everything is completely optional. We're not requiring anything, which is causing some interesting hurdles. My own kids go to school in a different school district than the one that I work in, and got some teachers that are sending home a lot of stuff and some teachers that aren't sending home a whole lot of anything. It's the same thing is happening in my current district, where we have some people that are out there, I say playing with house money and learning a ton of stuff right now, where there's really no penalty for failure, if you will. And we've got some that are just kind of crickets and saying, okay, I'm just going to enjoy some time to rest and collect my thoughts. So I'm trying to flood people with opportunities right now so that the willing can jump on board and learn and grow. And at the same time, just trying to prod the rest to say, let's learn something, because something's coming. We don't know what, but let's grow before the mandates start coming down on us.
Yeah, I really want to talk on that, because I think this is a great opportunity that we have been encouraging our family to utilize, but it's trying to find the right things to explore, and all those pieces. Before we do, I do want you to note all these comments that are saying that my mother must not be the #1 Dave Schmittou fan, because Jeff Vargas is claiming it, and baby Luke, who is our essentially Teach Better team baby right now. Andrea, who's been another part of our team for a while, apparently is taking the #1 slot. So this is the best.
That's awesome.
I love it. So I've been hearing a lot of districts in a similar spot to you that you articulated that, while there may not be something required, I'm seeing like 2 different avenues.
Yeah.
One where the district is saying, yes, pretend like it's a normal school day, but we're moving on virtually, which is causing a lot of stress. Similar to a comment earlier that Adam posted, there's bumps in the road when that happens. There's a lot of conversations with equity, so we could get into that. And the other is encouraging teachers to say, hey, we don't know quite what we're doing. We do want to keep our students' minds active.
Yeah,
so what are some things that we can push out, but maybe not require? And then the third element of that, I guess, is encouraging teachers to kind of dabble with something, because I don't know if you've seen this, Dave, and actually I know you have because I've been sharing a lot of what you've been sharing. It looks like almost every tech tool that educators want in the world is free.
Right.
So could we use some time, not too much time, but could we use some time to dabble with a tech tool that maybe we didn't have access to before?
Yeah, absolutely. So, that Google Doc that started floating around about a week ago now has 800 plus resources on it, which is crazy. I mean, it's so amazing. But I also know myself with my personality. I'm sure there's other people that have this trait about them too. Sometimes you get so overwhelmed, you get kind of paralysis. You don't even know where to start. And you don't know which of those 800 are the best one to start playing with. So what I'm really encouraging people to do is to focus on the reason you became a teacher to begin with. We complain all the time about bureaucracy and the system that doesn't allow us to play and inspire and change lives and all of that kind of stuff, because we always have to teach to the test or chase the next grade. Well, you don't have any of those restrictions right now. Right now, it is all about you building relationships and making learning relevant for your students. This is truly an amazing opportunity if you take it and hold and latch onto it. Tech is out there. Yes, utilize a lot of the tech resources that are out there. Send your students opportunities to go on these virtual field trips and allow them to just play in the real world. But there's so much relevance that you can tap into right now for your students to learn and grow. And that's kind of what I've been doing with my own kids at home. Yeah, I appreciate the fact that the teachers are sending these optional packets to my own kids and sending things via their Google Classroom for them to work on if they so desire. I'll put that stuff on the back burner, and when I run out of my own ideas, I'll grab onto them. But right now, we are just trying to make learning fun. My own kids, like I said, 14 to 4, right now, they kind of feel like this is just a bonus vacation. And I get that. They don't necessarily feel the same level of anxiety as I do. They know, hey, Dad is working remotely right now. Dad is home a little bit more often. And they're excited about this. So I'm grabbing onto that and saying, you've got excitement about all this stuff. Let's play, let's learn, let's grow. Let me teach you all that stuff that I couldn't teach you when you were in school and sitting in the classroom.
Yeah. And that goes along with Patty's comment I saw earlier. And I'm sorry, these comments are hard to keep up with as we're in our conversation. So we promise we'll go back to these. But Patty posted that she's essentially on a mandated spring break right now. And so with that being said, I like kind of the double lens that you provided. One is there's all these free virtual experiences. Sure, maybe you share those with students. Maybe that's something that your children can explore. And then while that fun is going on, because that's a great thing to explore right now to get them out seeing the world. But then as a teacher, you could choose a tool or two to try. Because I was talking to a teacher yesterday who was extremely overwhelmed on the opposite end of what we are talking about now, where she is just so bogged down with trying to run virtual learning for her students, and she's feeling very little support. And she's also feeling this pressure to go explore those 800 tech tools that are free right now. And my response to her, right or wrong, you could agree with me or not, is you go focus on your students. Let these other educators who maybe don't have as much to do, maybe they're on a virtual spring, a mandated spring break, to maybe give you some tips of what tools they have time to explore. Because right now, she doesn't have the time to do it because she's tackling a different beast. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely.
So depending on what boat you're in, you can kind of get different value and then share that. Joe vocalizing that he's running into roadblocks. Like, I would love to know those because I don't have a virtual learning requirement right now. So you share your roadblocks with me so I can overcome those more quickly. I'll share the tech tools I'm exploring with you, and let's make this network work together. You know what I'm saying?
No, absolutely. Can I take this and go a little with it.
Yeah.
So about 5 years ago, I started teaching college courses at the graduate level. And my first year was face-to-face, and I absolutely loved it. I had all these people that were signing up to be in the course, and we would debate and get in all kinds of great conversations. After doing that for a year and just stoking my own personal passions a little bit, the college decided that they were going to switch platforms, and we went to completely online teaching. And I got to tell you, that first year was a complete disaster in my mind, because all of the stuff that I had done in my face-to-face classes, the debates, building those relationships, having the great dialogue, I felt like were lost when I went to the online teaching. And I was ready to quit and give it up and say, I am not doing this. This is not what I signed up for. So I sent out a survey to my students and said, did you feel the same way I did, basically? Do you feel like I was just giving you the two-threaded discussion items, go read the article and answer the questions every single week? And like, was there any relationship building? And I'll be honest with you, they agreed with me and they said, oh, this was an absolute disaster. We just felt like you were just giving us hoops to jump through. And there was a part of me that wanted to just crawl into a hole and hide. But then there's also that fighter mentality that said, I'm not going out like that. So I completely flipped things and said, I'm not going to focus on all of that anymore, the hoops and the boxes that I feel like I have to live in. I'm going to do the same thing I did in my classroom, which was build those relationships. I'm going to do the same thing online. So instead of doing the threaded discussions and having everybody write these article reviews, we went to video learning just like this. We used Zoom and we used Flipgrid and we used anything that we could do to put ourselves in front of each other. Having real conversations is what we went to. Because in the real world, in classrooms, I'm a huge believer that teachers matter more than curriculum, more than pacing, more than textbooks, more than devices. Teachers matter more. So the teachers have to find a way to put themselves in front of their students or to interact with their students any way you can. So teachers, I say all that to say, as you're looking for tools and tricks and virtual field trips and all that stuff, that's all great. But what you need to focus on right now is how can you continue to capture that relationship that you spent the first 100 days of the school year fighting for? How can you focus on finding ways to put yourself in front of your kids? Because they might not verbalize it, but they miss you as much as you miss them. So find ways to interact with your kids in a real way. The difference between what's happening now and summer vacation and spring break is nobody had time to plan for this. Your kids were basically just ripped out from you. You were ripped away from them. Nobody had the opportunity to say goodbye and give that last hug. Find a way to put yourself back in front of your kids. That's your number one responsibility right now. Sorry, had to go on my soapbox.
No, Dave, this is literally why I needed you on live with me, because I love everything you just said. This is your mantra. You're so consistent with this. And you say it in a way that, like, I'm getting all choked up. I'm like, I do miss my kids. You know, it's like, I just think that this is a reminder we all need that, you know, as professionals, we're like, ooh, let's go explore. Ooh, let's do our job better, da, da, da. And then we kind of need that reality check of like, God, I haven't seen my 156 graders. And I stinking miss them. You know, I just want to make sure that we can continue to build that relationship, because that's where everything starts. And that idea that we haven't prepared is the reality, because our district announced that we weren't going to see our kids any longer at 3:44 on a Friday, and we dismissed at 3:45.
Wow.
And so we were saying goodbye, really not knowing anything. And then we got that email, and I was like, oh, if I would have gotten it 5 minutes earlier to say goodbye to my students and prepare in any way, that would have been better versus thinking that you had a week more with them. It's so tricky.
Absolutely.
You know, I do want to comment on Zoom really quick, because I learned something that if everybody else knew this, I apologize, but I had a reality check yesterday with a tech tool. So I'm going to give that. And then Dave, we actually have we have 2 or 3 questions so far that have, comments that have questions in them.
Yeah.
I thought we could read and maybe talk through answers. I don't know that we'll have the answer, but we could try. Awesome. So first of all, I did a Google Hangout yesterday and Zoom. And I'm sure that you all know this, and I'm just a nerd and I didn't know this, but I've realized I like Zoom better when you have more than 4 people.
Yes.
So if you're a teacher right now and you don't know that, like me, I learned that yesterday. If you are trying to interact or engage with people virtually and you have more than 4 people that you're trying to do that with, I do recommend Zoom over Google Hangout, simply because on Zoom, you can have that tile format where you can see everybody who's talking. Whereas on Google Meets, great platform, but you can only see 4 people at a time. So when we were doing a team call yesterday is when I experienced this. I realized I'm like, oh, Zoom for that reason alone is what I'm leaning more towards, unless you're doing it with less than 4 people. Do you agree with that, Dave?
Completely, especially when you're talking about you were on a team meeting, because it's a whole lot easier to mute Jeff Gargas on Zoom than it is on Google Hangout. So at least from my perspective. So
yeah. And I know that, right now Zoom's free, so I'm able to recommend it. But if you're a teacher that's trying to engage with students, I am always a Google person. But yesterday I was sold on Zoom specifically for that reason alone.
Yeah.
So just something to consider.
And
so
Zoom is always free. No matter the size of your crowd, as long as you keep it to about 20 minutes or less, you can do one-on-one conversations unlimited for free. So there you go.
So that's awesome.
Yeah.
See, just another that one I think is the tech tool I'm hearing the most right now, strictly because I think it's easy to get the face-to-face contact. So
yeah, for sure.
Cool. All right. We literally have a ton of comments, but I'm like keeping my cursor on this one because I want to get to it. This is from Lisa. Yeah. Lisa is an amazing educator. I love. She comes live with us all the time. So her comment says, "Hey, we're in an optional or enrichment phase also. My admin, however, insists that we are all doing the exact posts within our grade level. I really want to explore tools and try new things, but my science partner doesn't. Any advice? Getting super frustrated." So what it sounds like to me, Dave, is that, they're trying to still keep, the same grade level teachers teaching the same as the other one. And that seems to be frustrating to her. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah. So first of all, let me start with assume the good and doubt the bad. I think it's super important for us all to remember right now. And that goes with your teacher partners, that goes with your administrators, everybody. Assume that they are doing the absolute best that they can. I can tell you what I assume to be the intent behind that. Number one, as a parent, we have to look at this through the lens of the student and the parent. When we get 15 different emails from 15 different teachers with different expectations, we get overwhelmed. And we also start to play the comparison game. Teacher X is doing a better job than teacher Y. And so administrators are trying their best to look out for you by trying to just make things equitable, equal, and using that dirty word fidelity or whatever you want to do. So they're just trying to make things as streamlined as possible. So right now, I'm going to challenge you, honestly, basically going back to what I just said, don't get so worried and caught up on the curriculum or the content that's being delivered or how that's even being delivered. If your administrator wants all of that to go out one way and your teaching partner's not quite on board with all the tools and tricks that you want to implement right now, okay, let them do the easy way. And then you focus in on building those relationships. You find a different path, a different route, and you play around with the tools some way, somehow. Hey, reach out to me. I'll be your practice student. Let's play in the sandbox together, because I have no clue what I'm going to do in a couple of weeks either. I've got a bunch of administrators and teachers that I've got to try to lead through this, and I'm trying to figure out all these tools the best way I can. So latch on to some of the other people in the group here, latch on to other professionals, latch on to other adults, and just play to the best of your ability.
Yeah, I'm having flashbacks. I feel like we talked about this very similar conversation on the podcast that we did together, because I think that this stance is so appropriate that we really do need to see the good in why these might be requirements, but also trying to identify, but go play on the side too, because while it's a requirement right now in your job, that doesn't mean you as a person can't continue to grow, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And as administrators, what we tend to do, and this was definitely one of my shortcomings, and it still kind of is that I battle, is when we become administrators, we look back on how we were as teachers, and we think, I became an administrator because of the great teacher I was. So people just did things, or if people just do things the way that I did them, they'll be just fine. So a lot of times administrators, we put out these mandates based off of what we know as opposed to what can be. So this is also an opportunity for you to grow your administrator. Maybe if there's that expectation that you have to only send one standard email or whatever it is to your students, ask your administrator, hey, can I play with you? Can I practice some of my tools with you and see if you can grow with me, and we can try these things out together, and then you can both grow at the same rate.
I like that. This next comment, I'm sorry, I should have prefaced. If you are listening right now on Teach Better Talk podcast, after our recording, don't forget you can participate live and be a part of this conversation along with us in our private Facebook group over at teachbettergroup.com. Every single morning, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday at 7 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Eastern. And then just, if you are commenting live with us right now, we cannot see who is posting. So if you put your name at the end, we can talk directly to you, like that comment from Lisa. Otherwise, we are going to talk in generics, but we so appreciate there are so many comments we're going to get to. The next one I'm seeing right now says, I don't have one of my students' math textbooks. I only have my TE. I want to take a picture to show it in Seesaw. How can I delete or cover or color over the answers? Anyone know an editing tool I could use? Any thoughts on that, Dave?
I'm trying my best here. Yeah, I've got thoughts. Number one, I'll go back. I doubt a whole lot of your kids really want to do their math textbook right now. I'll just pause with that. If there's a way that you can take the problems, or I'm a huge standards-based guy. So if you can identify the what, why are you even doing these problems to begin with, and identify the what behind it, and give them something that's a little bit more relevant and exciting, I think you'll get a whole lot more buy-in. I know right now we're thinking, okay, but I just had to make this user-friendly and easy for me. I get that. If you just need to create your own little template, your own little worksheet of the essentials, go for it. I would just challenge you, try your best not to just duplicate worksheets and say that we're now teaching in a virtual world. This is an opportunity to do something different and enhance the educational experience for kids. A worksheet online is still a worksheet.
Yeah, no, you're right. Working with a teacher yesterday, I should pull up the app we were using. And now, of course, that we're like live right now, I'm not going to find it. But it's a virtual reality app that you can do on your phone, where you walk into portals. And in those portals, you can leave questions for people to find. Ooh. And I'm like, go do a worksheet that way.
That's
Put
awesome.
Every question in a different portal. One of them I was doing with her, we were like deep sea diving in the ocean. And I'm like, it's the same as a worksheet, but way more fun. And you had to actually walk around your house to be able to do it. So you're not like placing it somewhere in the world, but you're placing it somewhere in the portal. And the only way to go into the portal and explore is to physically walk around the room. It's super fun.
That's awesome.
Just little things. Randy is in here. Randy is a wonderful family member of the Teach Better team as well. She's agreeing with you that building and maintaining relationships is by far something that she is really focusing on and she values. But she wants to know if you have any tips on how to build or maintain those when you're online. Because obviously, when your students are in the classroom, you're able to see them. You're able to, give them a high five. You're able to ask them questions. So she just wants to know if you have any tips in terms of building and maintaining those relationships in a virtual setting.
Absolutely. So, what's cool is, Ray, you and I have never met in person. I know. I can imagine that first time is going to be epic, but we've never met in person before. But I feel like we've got this relationship that we've been able to build just from being able to talk to each other. I go to conferences quite a bit and have the opportunity to walk down the atriums. And every time I get these people that run up to me and want to shake my hand or give me a hug, I have no idea who these people are, but they feel like they know me simply because of, like, for example, the podcast I do or things like this. Just because I'm in their ears or they're able to see me online, they feel like we've got this connection, even though we've never met face to face. And I think the same thing can happen with your own students. You can form a connection with them just by putting yourself in front of them, letting them hear your voice, being your goofy self, whoever you are, just be you as often as you can and let your kids experience that. And it does wonders. So don't just be a virtual packet pusher who is assigning assignments to kids. Be that person that your kids can grow to love, no matter if you're in the same physical space with them, or you got your 6-foot bubble from them, or you're communicating to them from 60 miles away. Just continue to put your voice in their ears and let them lay eyes on you whenever you can.
And you're right. I like your emphasis on voice and physical, demeanor as well. So whether you're recording videos for students, I was working with a teacher yesterday who literally started a podcast on Anchor that she asked all her students to subscribe to. And she's just giving a fun challenge of the day. They can hear her voice. And it's not the same. It's not like a perfect system because they can't quite interact with her in her doing that. But, she's kind of giving them updates on what she's up to, talking about how much she misses them. Any way that you can have a video or an audio communicating to your students, that goes back to the team talks a lot about sending video emails. So, not only giving the information to your students in a text format, but giving it them through other avenues, whether it be an Instagram story or a video on YouTube that they can just see you, and maybe they respond, in a Flipgrid format where they can respond with the video as well. Trying to get that engagement's really important.
Ray, can I spin this? I'm going to put you in the hot seat for a second. Do you mind if I do that?
Go ahead.
Because, your classroom is a super cool classroom where, you bring learning to life like nobody I've ever met before. You bring the community in, you make math fun, you make it relevant to kids, and you really take it to that next level. You don't do a whole lot of, I'm going to assign this and you do the odds and you do the evens. It's bringing it to life. But I see a comment on here that I'm going to read to you. And I want you to think about not necessarily in the virtual world, but how do you balance this in your classroom? Because I think it applies. There's somebody on here that wrote that they have some parents requesting things done in the traditional way, that the whole virtual distance learning thing might not necessarily be working for parents. Because they have to manage this. They have to know what's going on. They need to be able to help support their kids. So they kind of just want the worksheets or just the book work. So I guarantee you've experienced some of that in your own classroom where parents say, oh, this isn't the way I learned math. How do you do that in your classroom? Sorry, I didn't prep you for that. I just saw it and I thought, oh, this is a Ray question.
No, I love this stuff. Honestly, Dave, I think that teachers fall into a rut more, like I really see it quite often, where we feel like our job is to teach students. And so we lesson plan, we do all these things to support every question a student could have. We make full experiences for them. We personalize it to them. We do all these things, but we don't always think about the other responsibilities we have, like teaching our administrators what we're doing or teaching our stakeholders what we're doing. And I think a lot of the elements of supporting a parent in understanding why we do what we do, whether it be virtually or in our classroom in general, is teaching them the why of what we're doing. So there must be something that's driving us to instruct this way. A lot of my why is based off of research that supports student growth and student learning. So giving them those resources, explaining the why, following up with them to answer questions, being accessible. These are all elements that I do for my students to make sure I earn their buy-in, but we also need to earn our stakeholders' buy-in as well. This is the same conversation I have with teachers who are trying to design units with the Teach Further model, right? Those themed internships that are all sponsored by local businesses. And they're like, Ray, how do you have 25 different community sponsors who donate hundreds of dollars to your classroom and so much time every single year? Where do you get those kinds of sponsors? And I'm like, well, you don't get those kinds of sponsors. You earn them in the same way that we don't get students that naturally know how to take ownership of their learning. You have to build them. And so the better that we can do to not only work to educate our students, but work to educate our parents to be allies in this arrangement is a huge piece. And so I know it sounds silly, but sometimes it's as easy as making a student video and then making a parent video explaining what you just made. And so they're able to be, a part of that experience versus a lot of parents right now are feeling extremely removed and isolated from this process, but they're trying to support their students and not have it be on their shoulders to make sure they don't fall behind in this tough situation. So the more that we can see ourselves as educators of all versus just educators of the tiny humans that we have in our classroom, depending on what grade level you teach, I think the stronger we're going to be. Do you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. That was awesome. And that truly is your calling. And, I hear at times we say, we can do anything we want if it's in the best interest of students, which I completely get. But oftentimes we use that as an excuse to do things at the expense of the grownups. I know as an administrator, I have been guilty of saying, but this is best for students while I make teachers work twice as hard, or I completely dismiss what parents need. If it's what's best for kids, it's what's best for the big kids as well. So you gotta focus on all avenues.
And that's the same element. And I have other questions I know we want to get to. So we will. I appreciate all these comments we're getting. But that's the same avenue that we talked about, where I don't know why we use best practice to support our students and yet teacher PD doesn't use best practice.
Oh.
Like there's no reason why education stops when you turn 18 or why education stops when you hit a certain age. We should be giving the best learning that we can give to anyone, no matter the student. And I'm sure in your role especially, I mean, you don't have a classroom of 24 that you see every day, but you have a classroom that expands the entire district to keep everybody educated and to continue to encourage them to be lifelong learners, right? I mean, that's your role.
Okay, so I'm having flashbacks right now to the 1980s. Remember that Sylvester Stallone movie, Over the Top, where he's an arm wrestler? I don't know if you've seen that, but the hat goes around and then he goes down, and my hat just had to get flipped because you're bringing out some of the big stuff now. Yes, and yes. What we do, they do. That's the bottom line. And that goes for administrators to teachers, teachers to students. What we do, they do. I know this as a dad of 4 kids, that whatever I say, what I do when I roll my eyes is what I end up seeing my own kids do down the road. So if you're an administrator and you're telling your teachers, go online, teach virtually, and then you still have these boring staff meetings where you're passing out worksheets and going over agendas in minutes with your staff, don't be shocked when that's the same kind of instruction that's delivered to your kids. So this is a challenge to you administrators. If you're watching this on Facebook because that's the platform you're comfortable with, awesome. But now step outside of your comfort zone and try something different today. When nobody's watching you, nobody's judging you, you can learn right now on house money. Go play, go learn, and encourage your teachers to do the same thing.
So it's funny. I know we're going to get off this topic, but we keep going back and forth because we are both so passionate about this. One of the educators I was speaking to yesterday was telling me how much they love that we're doing a daily drop-in every single morning, 7 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Eastern, because they love the consistency. Yeah. They're like, I'm feeling very isolated. I really like having, this virtual teacher's lounge where we can talk through ideas. Or if I don't catch it live, I can catch it in a bonus episode of, Teach Better Talk podcast or catch it on YouTube. And they were sharing some incredible positive feedback about how they feel very supported. And I'm like, great. So are you doing that for your students yet? Because they are having the exact same problem. They miss you. They don't necessarily know what questions to ask, but want the engagement. Are you streaming live every morning at 7 a.m. Central on Instagram stories or sending out a clip on YouTube of talking through things? Because if you can give them the same experience that you're saying you valued so much, wouldn't we all be a little bit better? I'm not saying to do all these things, but think about what you're enjoying and can we duplicate that for our children,
Absolutely. Yeah. And so I'm going to be very transparent. There's so much of the stuff that I have no idea about, and I'm supposed to be the guy in the district that has all the answers for teaching and learning. And I don't have a clue right now. People are reaching out to me saying, Dave, what am I supposed to do? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. So I've reached out to people all week long asking the questions. And this last night, I was part of a webinar with some people from Atlanta, Georgia, called The Organic Learner. Shout out to The Organic Learner, Rich and Bethany Boudry, who are teaching me how to create videos. Because, I've got my little cell phone and I can take selfies and do a Facebook Live and stuff like that. But I don't necessarily know how to go in and edit videos and to make them cool and upload them and share them. So they're walking me through this process. All you got to do is reach out to people and say, help. And there are thousands and thousands of people out there that are willing to help or stand alongside you while you learn. So just reach out.
And we talked about that on our Teaching on an Island series that we're doing in our private group as well. Or this is a series that we already had in place that we're just continuing, even though we've done a lot of things to adjust for the times. But Teaching on an Island PD series last night at 7 o'clock in the evening with Jennifer Apple was focused on what it feels like when you're stranded. And one of the ideas that we talked about is you're only going to be feeling like you're teaching on an island if you allow yourself to live that way. Go reach out. Isolation at this point might be a reality that we're physically living in, but you can have these conversations virtually with a lot of people. So I do want to get back to these questions. I'm sorry we were on a soapbox. Dave and I love to chat about these things.
Sorry.
I have some easy questions here, from like Tammy and Randy I'm seeing. So Dave, Randy asked, do students need to do much to sign up for Zoom or already a Google School? Can you just give quick snippet? How do you do that?
Yeah, Zoom is actually super easy. So as a facilitator of Zoom, when you go into Zoom and you schedule a meeting, it gives you a link. and you literally just send a link. It's a URL. You send it out to your students. You can do that through Google Classroom or send it via email. And all they have to do is click the link and they're in. That's all there is to it. Literally, you go in, say schedule a meeting. It gives you a link. You send the link, and whoever's got the link can sign in. It's super easy.
And it looks like we're super far behind because there was a lot of good comments about that. So I'm glad you were able to share that for our listeners who are listening to the Teach Better Talk podcast bonus episode, because it looks like a lot of people in this group were saying the same thing. Jeff Gargas does want you to know, Dave, that he edits these videos before they go on YouTube. So anything mean you said about him, I think he's going to take out of here.
Oh, I love you, Jeff.
Gosh, there's been amazing interaction. I'm scrolling through. There are, I kid you not, there are hundreds of comments that I am going to not be able to sit here and read through, but a lot of people sharing tech tools, a lot of people talking about the purpose and how they feel overwhelmed, but they really want to reassure parents and students that they're doing good work and they're there to help. Oh my goodness, so many fun things. Just emphasizing the fact that traditional isn't best, and if we can really personalize things for students, that would be wonderful.
Can I focus on that real quick? Because I heard George Kiros say the other day that new doesn't necessarily equal better, and that is so true. Just know that as well. There is a time and a place to do whatever you consider to be traditional, or what you did 2 weeks ago. If what you were doing in your classroom was working 2 weeks ago, odds are it would still work today. But I think it's a time to reflect and say, what I was doing 2 weeks ago, was it really working? This is an opportunity just to sit back. If you have a system and a practice in place, whether it's worksheets or some sort of interactive engagement activity, just sit back and say, was it really working? Because there might have been other people that were doing things completely virtual and digital and tech-based 2 weeks ago. And it's a great opportunity for you to sit back and reflect and say, but was it really working? No matter what it was, figure out if it was really working. If it was, figure out how to keep it going forward. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's perfect. You know, Dave, I have a comment here. I'm so glad somebody asked this, because I know that sometimes you get in a situation and you're like, okay, I have a question, but I'm embarrassed to ask. This would be one I want to applaud. I don't know who posted this, but they say, I hate to ask, but who's the awesome educator talking to Ray? I jumped in late. Because Dave, we had you introduce yourself, but it was at the very beginning. So for a ton of educators who are watching right now, but didn't get to hear your story, what you do in education, and also just, you know, where you're coming from in the world that we're streaming, you know, would you mind kind of going through really quick again for those of you who dropped in late or who joined us late for our daily drop-in? This is Dave Schmittou. I want to make sure you guys can stay connected to him. How can they connect with you?
Yeah, well, I am Ray Hewitt's biggest fan, and I love Ray's mom as well. Who I am, I'm Dave Schmittou. I live here in Michigan, 4 kids, executive director of curriculum instruction, former teacher, former principal, so on and so forth. But just follow me at Dave Schmittou. That's Schmittou is probably going to be the hardest part. SCHMITTOU, but at Dave Schmittou on Instagram, Twitter, you'll find me.
Awesome. I like this, Dave. This kind of goes back to your suggestion of trying things with your administrator. This is Candace, who's also, I love when Candace drops into our live videos. She says, can we have a Zoom or another platform chat as a Teach Better group? Thinking it may help some of us who are kind of nervous. So Dave, do you think that it would be easy for us to just like throw a Zoom link in for everybody and they can all kind of experience it sometime, you know, this week? I think it'd be easy to do, right?
Sure. I'm willing to try it. I have no idea what's going to happen, but I'm willing to try anything.
Yes. I love this. Tammy says, I love when Tammy posts, she says, sorry to harp on this point, but a teacher can be as an awesome teacher who uses amazing strategies and learning tools, who does things differently, i.e. non-traditional, and occasionally use a worksheet as well. So do you think that Tammy's right, that variety is still somebody who can make up a strong educator?
Oh, absolutely. It goes back to the George Kiros. New does not necessarily equal better. You know, for example, you know, Kindles and e-readers are all the way, but I still need the paper book to be able to read and actually hear the paper turn. And we would say that's traditional, and I'm not in the new age. Oh, okay. But that's what I need. I know that there are some people, some students, some teachers that still need paper and pencil. Absolutely. Worksheets can be a great tool. It's all about that reflection and saying, is this the best tool for my given purpose? That's it.
And I completely agree. I think that's important. There are so many things, like me, like I held this up. This is my to-do list. I'm a paper person. I'm writing things down. It doesn't mean that I won't use technology, but physically when creating my to-do list, I like being able to do this, and then I like, done, this one's finished. It feels good to, crinkle it up and throw it down, and then you're finished. So it doesn't mean that you can't use traditional tools. We're just encouraging you to see that when you have access to other opportunities, to give students other opportunities, we shouldn't shy away from those. We should try things and then be reflective, which, Dave, you have been so consistent, not only here, but in your podcast and everything you reach out, or everything you share out, that reflection is really the success monitor for me. It's try something, see if it works, and then reflect, because if it doesn't work, cool, don't do it again. And if it did work, awesome. You just added another thing into your teacher toolkit that you're going to be able to pull out to help a student be more successful.
Right. I mean, this is we've been given the gift of time right now. I know it's a chaotic time, but life just called a timeout so that we can sit down and look at ourselves in the mirror. That's what's happening. And you think about athletics, coach calls a timeout because things aren't going well, and they need to adjust their plays. This is an opportunity. It's a timeout. And if we go back on the floor and continue to do the exact same thing we were doing, we have just taken this gift and thrown it out for no good reason. There's something that we can all do to make our lives, to make our jobs, and to make the lives of those around us even better. So just spend some time right now trying to figure out what is that thing you're going to tweak and change it. Because if you go into, let's say that school is canceled for the rest of the year, God forbid, let's just say that does happen. I know that's already happened in some states. They've already made that decree. And then when September rolls around next year, if your September next year looks just like your September this past year, something didn't go right now. This is your opportunity to try something new. So set yourself up for next September, if nothing else.
This is literally all I've been trying to share out, and I'm trying to answer everyone's questions. But guys, my mantra right now is exactly what Dave said. I don't care when we go back to school. Are you going to be a stronger educator? If the answer is no, you are wasting your time right now. Let's be better, whether that is refueling yourself, whether that's recentering yourself, exploring and becoming more educated, reading a book. Go do something so that when we go back to school, whether it be in 5 days, 2 weeks, 8 weeks, or 9 months from now, whatever it is, are you going to come back stronger, with a better perspective on how to support students, with a better understanding of the situations that our students are walking into our classrooms every day with? How are we going to be a little bit better today than we were yesterday? Yep. If that is your focus, you are going to come out on top of this whole process.
That's it.
So I think I'm going to make a decision as we continue to see these comments flow in. After our live video is done, I'm going to set up a Zoom link, and I will be posting it in our private Facebook group. And feel free to click on the link. I'll try and leave it open. I have about an hour gap between when our daily drop-in will kind of conclude and when my next meeting starts. So I will leave that Zoom link open for, about a half an hour, 40 minutes. And feel free, you can jump in. I can show you some tools. And if you don't catch us during that time, I'll do my best to maybe offer that later this week as well, or somebody on our team can offer it, just to kind of give people access to this one tech tool we've simply talked about, which is good to, pop in and get some FaceTime with people. Does that work?
That's exciting.
That'd be good. I like that Andrew's putting better today than yesterday. Yep. There's a good activity or a good question here I want to make sure we touch on. What if students aren't completing your e-learning activities? How do you give them that push virtually? Any thoughts on that, Dave? I feel like that we could talk on a hot topic for that for a while.
Yeah. So I guess, how would you push a kid if they were in your classroom and they weren't completing your work? It's really no different. I'm a big believer that grades are not compensation. And if so, that means we're missing something in the relevance piece. I'm also a firm believer that it's not always carrots and sticks that make people do the work, that sometimes a relationship is key. So, for example, Ray, you and I agreed to do this talk at 7:00 your time. That is early. But I said, yeah, let's do this because we've got this relationship, and I wanted to jump in and do something to help support you. And I appreciate that you're helping support me because we've got this relationship. When you have a relationship with people, you go to bat for them and you try your best to make them proud. So if people aren't doing the work, again, opportunity for reflection. You can sit back and say, am I doing all that I need to do to foster this relationship? B, does this have relevance to the kid? Do they understand why this is important? And if you can check yes to both of those, then guess what? Reaching out via phone call or FaceTime or Google Hangout one-on-one with an individual student and just asking them what else is missing is going to get you super far. You already have that relationship with them because you've identified that, yes, you have this relationship. So sometimes with a relationship, you have to have those critical, crucial conversations. So have that critical, crucial conversation and say what's missing. Because right now, their life might be in complete chaos too. Maybe they are responsible for babysitting brothers or sisters while mom's at work. Maybe they don't have access online. Maybe their head is just, maybe mom or dad told them right now it's just a vacation, just kind of chill. We don't know. So assume the good and doubt the bad applies to your kids as well. Sit down and just figure out what's going on and what you can do individually, one-on-one.
Yeah, Adam's agreeing with you. He posted here saying, I think sending a student a short personal video explaining how well you want them to do, you know, that goes back to very similar what Dave, you're articulating. Reach out to that student, find out their situation, build that relationship. You know, everyone right now is in a very different situation. And I think that it's easy right now, especially because a lot of us are isolated, right? I'm in a house by myself. It's kind of, we're forgetting that every situation is a little different. Yeah. And so even connecting with one of my good friends yesterday, I'm like, hey, how's your break going? And she's like, I'm not on break. I have 4 kids at home. My state's requiring e-learning. I'm tracking down students, trying to communicate with parents. I've had no support. I'm so overwhelmed. And I'm sitting back and I'm like, oh, that's not at all the situation I'm in. I don't have that lens. And she is in, a middle-class family, so they're not really struggling with some of the then additional layer of things that they could be struggling with. So really striving to make sure that we're, the first thing is reaching out to the student and understanding the situation is so important.
Absolutely. 5 years ago, I was a principal of a suburban school district here in Michigan, and it was middle class, blue collar, just everybody looked like me. And then I got an opportunity. I went to Florida to become a principal of a school district or of a school where it was a completely different world. It was inner city. 95% of the kids were from poverty. About 40% of the kids had at least one parent in jail. And I came in and my world was completely rocked because my perception was completely changed. I went in originally thinking the only thing that this school needs to change is a change of attitude. Everybody just needs to try a little bit harder. Everybody just needs to do the work. But then when I realized what was really happening, and we had 5 and 6-year-olds that were babysitting their brothers and sisters every single day so that single moms and single dads could go out and try to make a living, or kids that were having to take a bus all over town because they didn't have a car, completely changed my perception. And I realized I have to meet them where they are. Everybody is truly doing the absolute best they can. Nobody wakes up, no matter where they come from, saying, I'm going to make life miserable for everybody today. Everybody is truly doing the best they can. And our responsibility is to meet people wherever they are, whether they're from a situation just like ours or not, and try to just add value to their situation. So we just have to remember, our students, no matter where they are, probably don't have houses that are just like yours. So meet them where they are and just provide value.
Dave, this is why I love chatting with you. I know I've said it numerous times on this recording so far, whether you're listening on Teach Better Talk podcast as a bonus episode, watching this on YouTube after, or you're live with us right now. I so appreciate that you always go back to the same idea of giving people permission to share their story and trying to see their perspectives. I think this is such a gift you have. And I mean, I listen to your podcast. I essentially consume all content you push out, and we're live together right now. And still, I feel like I'm sitting here being taken back when you go into these stories of, oh, yes, I have to remember to always just see the good and assume the good. And it's important. So we are getting some questions I want to make sure we talk through. One is about that Zoom call we mentioned earlier. Guys, when this video ends, I'm going to set up a Zoom account using my school account, which I think I already registered for earlier this week. And I will share the link. So when you're asking about the time that we're going to start, assume within the next 10 to 20 minutes. I might get another cup of coffee before we start.
I'm going to warm up too, but I'll be back. So I'm going to get into it. Yeah.
And then Lisa asked if I would record it. Lisa, this is what I would say to anybody. I don't know how to do that, but yes, I will figure out how to record it.
I'll hook you up. I'll hook you up. I'll record it. If she can't figure it out, I'll record it and I'll post it. So between the two of us, we'll get it done.
We'll get it done. And then we have a few questions about, I think these are easy things that we can provide. I think these are also questions that as an educator right now, these are good things to like Google, good things to ask right now. I think people will respond. This says, how do you share a personal video with students? My students don't have email. All other tech we are using is group. So I'm not sure what you mean by that, but I think, if you have a video you're recording, email's one avenue, but if you have a website you could post it on, if you have any way to communicate with your students, that's where I would start. And what's the natural form that you're communicating with them right now? Whether it's posting the video in that avenue, or it's posting the link, or posting information for them to access something. However you're communicating with them right now is where I would start personally.
Yeah, no, I agree. Or, meet them where their parents are. If your students don't have access to email, feel free to go live on Facebook and just say, this is a message to all of my kids in my class so they can see you. My preschool kid, he's 4 years old. Yesterday, his teacher sent the most amazing email, and he thought it was just for him. It's the subject line said songs from class. And I thought, oh my gosh, she's sending lyrics. I'm gonna have to sing these preschool songs with my 4-year-old. This isn't gonna go well. But no, it was her with her little phone set up on her tripod, and she was doing these weird, wacky, crazy dances, like Go Noodle style, for my 4-year-old. And he looked at that and thought, this was a video just for me. So if nothing else, send it out to the parents and let the parents share it with your kids.
Absolutely. There's a lot of comments. This is what I knew would happen. There's a lot of comments right now with different tools you can use.
Yeah.
I think you said it perfectly, that like whatever would be your normal avenue to communicate, start there. If it's to the parents, perfect. And just continue to go from there. There's a lot of good suggestions in here, like
Perfect.
Seesaw, Google Classroom, Flipgrid, Google Voice. There's a ton. So I think that's awesome. So very exciting. Cool. I know one person even said, depending on what LMS you use, that LMS can also email families. So you could, send that out to the masses. So all that works. All right, Dave, we've been live for an hour. I so appreciate you taking the time to talk with us. I know it seems like it goes by so fast. I know this daily drop-in had so much value, not only for people who participated live, but are also experiencing this video after. I want to remind everybody that the Teach Better team really is trying to be as accessible as possible to help you feel supported. We don't want you to feel like you're experiencing all these things alone. So whether you need a blog, or you're listening to a podcast, or you need a free download, or you want to take our virtual classroom online course at Teach Better Academy, we really are trying to be here. And these daily drop-ins are for you to make whatever you need happen. So continue to join us every single day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, from now until we decide to end this whole thing. We'll be here at 7 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Eastern. And Dave, you are an amazing guest that we were able to have. We're so honored. Maybe you'll come back and join us sometime in the future.
Anytime.
We'd love to have you. Awesome. For those of you that are listening live, or even during our recording, please make sure you go connect with Dave. Like I said a few times in this recording so far, I really am a huge fan of the work that Dave's doing, not only with his podcast, but really everything he's pushing out to support educators. So while I hope you got value here, I also hope you continue to get value with him as you connect in the future. So we really appreciate everything you do, Dave. Thank you again.
Thank you, Ray. I appreciate you.
All right. And we will see everybody later. Have a wonderful rest of your morning. And remember, students come first. If you need anything that we can help you reach your learners more deeply, let us know. All right. Bye, guys.